Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our webinar today. This is the first in a four-part webinar series where we'll be discussing land administration specifically focused on Latin America. Today we'll be covering modern cadastral field operations. This webinar will be made available as a recording afterwards, and we'll be telling you about how you can join the other webinars in the series. My name is Brandon Tortlett. I am the Global Business Development Manager for Land Administration here at Esri, and I am on the Geospatial Authorities team. I am joined today by my colleague Matt Woodleaf, who is a solution engineer on our team, and we're also joined by our guest presenter, Juan Pablo Solis from the Cadastral Foundation. These gentlemen will introduce themselves a bit later. Please note they both like to fold their arms when taking a picture. I'm going to first discuss the global frameworks in land administration to be aware of. Then I'll introduce the webinar series. Next, I'll present fit for purpose, and then I'll present the land administration framework here at Esri. Then I'll let Matt present his demonstration. JP from Cadastral will present on their deployments in Latin America, and we'll end with some Q&A. There is global recognition of the importance of land administration, and there are relevant frameworks to think about here. In order to meet the increasing challenges faced by the global community, it is increasingly recognized that having an integrated geospatial infrastructure is critical to be able to respond. At the core of that infrastructure are the basic foundational data layers needed by any nation state. The United Nations Committee of Experts on Global Geospatial Information, or UNGGIM, has identified a core group of data layers that most often support a wide range of applications and problem-solving strategies in any country. Land parcels, as you see here, are among those key data sets. Recognizing that nations often struggle when developing and strengthening their geospatial information management and related infrastructure, the United Nations and World Bank developed the Integrated Geospatial Information Framework, or IGIF. It aims to provide a basis and guide for lower to middle income countries to reference when modernizing their approach to geospatial information management. It does this through 9 strategic pathways depicted in this diagram. These 9 strategic pathways can be conceptualized into 3 overarching themes related to data governance, technology, and very importantly, people. The Esri ecosystem provides an abundance of resources to help countries align with and implement the IGIF. We have produced this paper, which explains these resources and alignment, and we can distribute this to you. Starting with today's webinar, you can think of this webinar series as an illustration of the resources to help you with IGIF. More specifically, there is an application of the IGIF toward land administration called the Framework for Effective Land Administration, or FELA. As you can see on screen, this gives a description of those pathways and how they correspond to land administration goals and priorities. So this is the framework we can help you with. Here at Esri, as I mentioned, we are a part of the National Geospatial Authorities team, which focuses on supporting the agencies who are in charge of exactly these fundamental data themes. So here we're referring to cadastral agencies and national mapping agencies. The challenges faced by cadastral agencies in Latin America in modernizing land administration, land information systems are significant. Those challenges include things like a lack of standards, working with data across borders, paper-based and incomplete land records, keeping the data accurate and current, and ensuring the public can access and use the information. GIS can help you address all of these challenges. We therefore present this webinar series to demonstrate how GIS can be used in collecting land rights information, managing parcels, determining property values, and communicating this information with the public. And as we suggested a moment ago, this webinar series will also illustrate the ways in which Esri can help you implement the framework for effective land administration. For today's topic, we'll be covering field data collection and topics like fit for purpose and the Land Administration Domain Model, or LADM. Let's dive right into today's topic. In order to do that, we need to begin by explaining what exactly the fit-for-purpose approach is to land administration. This is a concept developed in this study by the World Bank and the International Federation of Surveyors in 2014. As they say in the document, 75% of the world's population do not have access to formal systems to register and safeguard their land rights. There is an urgent need to build affordable and sustainable systems to identify the way land is occupied and used. They go on to say, the approach used for building land administration systems in less developed countries should be flexible and focused on citizens' needs, such as providing security of tenure and control of land use, rather than focusing on top-end technical solutions and high-accuracy surveys. Just to clarify, this approach does not reject the use of traditional surveying methods where that is possible, but instead favors a combination of approaches, or whatever is fit for the purpose at hand. Fit for purpose is an approach that is flexible in the spatial data capture approaches to provide for varying use and occupation, inclusive in scope to cover all tenure and all land. It is participatory in approach to data capture and use to ensure community support. It is affordable for the government to establish and operate and for society to use. It is reliable in terms of information that is authoritative and up to date. It is attainable in relation to establishing the system within a short time frame and within available resources. It is upgradable with regard to incremental upgrading and improvement over time in response to social and legal needs and emerging economic opportunities. With ArcGIS, there's many tools to support many workflows. You can incorporate the tools you have, such as imagery and aerial photos. You may have a surveyor, and you can use your GPS devices and your smartphones or tablets. These data sources can be used together. So since our focus today is on field collection, you should know that your imagery, survey data, and so on can be used as a base map in the app, taken into the field with you. The data can be collected according to standards and specifications. In our field, this would be the Land Administration Domain Model, or LADM. Once this data is brought into your GIS, it gets managed in a rigorous method using parcel management workflows and ultimately shared with the public. So what does this fit for purpose look like specifically for today's webinar on land administration? At the core of our fit for purpose land administration solution is ArcGIS Online. This is our hosted solution where you can manage permissions and access rights, configure and publish apps to support specific workflows such as fieldwork, editing, sharing with the public, perform analytics, and leverage external content such as imagery and base maps. All data is captured and processed inherently using the LADM data model. You have complete control over permissions to control which staff have what abilities. So who collects data, who edits data, etc. This means everything is secure and can be traced and audited. The main focus of today's webinar is field data collection, and for that, we use the Field Maps app, which Matt will be demonstrating. Field maps is used to capture points, lines, and polygons as well as related features and attributes. It can work in a connected or disconnected environment and can be paired with an external GPS device. You bring your own device, could be Android or iOS, and bring your own GPS. As I said on the slide before, you can use your existing imagery, control points, and other data as a base map when you take the Field Maps app out into the field. When we collect data in the field, it goes directly into a predetermined place in your database according to the LADM. In other words, your collected sites become features in your GIS. That's not always the case with other field collection techniques because it may not be an integrated system. The rest of this webinar series will explain what happens after that with managing parcels, valuing properties, and sharing with the public. Using web services, you can also join the parcel geometry with features from other databases, such as valuation or tax or land registry systems, allowing you to geo-enable these systems. ArcGIS is an upgradable, scalable, and modular platform. In a fit-for-purpose situation, you can get started with ArcGIS Online, where you immediately have access to the Field Maps app. You can get started now using the Android or iOS devices you have. You also have immediate access to content like high-resolution global imagery and base maps. Over time, as the technical capacity of staff increases, the volume of transactions grows, and the need for increased accuracy, and as you begin to maintain or have the need to maintain the parcels, you can begin utilizing our parcel editing solution, the Parcel Fabric, which we will feature in webinar number 2. Parcel Fabric has built-in workflows and the ability to improve the accuracy of your parcels over time. Finally, that small department solution can evolve into an enterprise cadastre that runs on your servers and can enable multi-user editing and the publishing of services. So as I conclude and hand things over to Matt, let's review what you've seen and preview what you're going to see in the rest of today's webinar. ArcGIS is fast to implement. You can get started with the device in your pocket. Low cost. You just need a named user to get started with ArcGIS Online. Scalable and upgradable. You start with a single user, but if a staff of 5 becomes a staff of 100, no problem. You just need named user licenses and you're instantly supporting 100 operators. Reliable. It's proven and used at scale to reliably collect data in large projects around the world, as JP will show you. No software development. You just need to configure for your workflows instead of software developers customizing for each new requirement and project phase. Secure. Licensed software is far more secure in terms of cybersecurity, as in, with no identity, there's no security. Leverages external data. You can include your own imagery and reference data as you work in the field. Accurate. It uses your own GPS device. Future-proof. It is continuously supported by Esri and continuously evolves using the latest technology advancements. Standards-based. The LADM is baked into the solution. Repeatable. You can use the same technology, you just configure it for each project. And lastly, it is proven. The workflows that Matt will show in a moment have been in use around the world for countless projects, large and small, for a long time. And JP is going to show some examples of how proven it is in the Latin American projects that they've done. Okay, so now we get to see the software in action. So over to you, Matt. Take it away.
Hello, I'm Matt Woodley. As Brandon may have mentioned, I'm a solution engineer on Esri's national government team, focusing on land administration and national mapping. My contact information will be displayed at the end of the presentation, so feel free to contact me at any time. So when it comes to collecting data in the field, there are a lot of options, such as drones, traditional surveys, or GPS-based mobile applications. In this demonstration, we are going to focus on fit-for-purpose field collection. This is a great technique for first registration, particularly in rural locations. Fit-for-purpose acts as the midpoint between no land recordation and a full-on professional survey. It's a more rapid but less accurate approach, because the goal is to just get the general agreed upon boundaries, which we can refine over time using the Arcgis Pro Parcel fabric. Now, since the name of the session is Field to Fabric, let's start in the field with Arcgis Field Maps, a new all-in-one app for the field. This app replaces Collector, Explorer, and Tracker in our suite of field applications. When I open the application as a field worker, I can see my available maps. In fact, each field collector will be armed with a mobile device, either using its internal GPS or an external GNSS receiver. All I need to do is tap to open the map. On my map, I can see that I have spatial units displayed. The spatial unit is the core of the land administration domain model, which is endorsed by the UN and ISO to be used for streamlining tenure mapping and maintenance. The field collector and landowner now have a few options to collect the perimeter of a field as a spatial unit. Since Field Maps has integrated Tracker, they could simply start streaming and walk the perimeter. I could also collect the location at each corner monument with the coordinates supplied by an external GNSS receiver. For this demo, though, we're going to collect heads up. So we're going to collect from where we're standing and use landmarks on the imagery to collect the boundaries. When collecting a spatial unit, notice the orange dot that appears. This indicates that I can snap to a point there. Now I know that we'll have to refine the boundary back in the office, but snapping with the field map can help eliminate some errors. After I submit the boundaries, I can see that I have related metadata that I can populate. Let's take a look at some of the 3 R's attachment. Here I can tell what type of land this is, and I can give a description as to what is the ownership like of this land. In this case, it is mortgaged. And the owner owns 100% of that land. I can even take a picture of the location and attach that to the record. I could also attach any of the legal documentation. I can take a picture of it with my phone. But what makes all of this work together is the service-driven architecture running on the back end with ArcGIS Online. After I refresh the map, we'll see that my new parcel is here. This is because the app and the web application are using the exact same data source. And ArcGIS Field Maps is fully integrated into the ArcGIS system, so updates from the field are seamless. This is achieved by using 2 other applications, Arcgis Pro for publishing and the Arcgis Field Maps web application for configuring. The best part is, though, I didn't need to write a single line of code to empower my mobile device with field collection capabilities. So let's see how that's done. Let's start in Arcgis Pro. Starting in Arcgis Pro, we will deploy the land administration domain model as a schema to our geodatabase. The LADM comes with spatial feature classes and several related tables. These naming conventions can be configured to meet the needs specific to your country's profile. We've created the Ladm implementation to get started quickly. And this is not a full Ladm, but it is compliant. The spatial unit and its related tables provide the background information for a land unit, such as the owner, data collection, and party responsible for said collection. And they're all linked together through a relationship class. Taking a look at the attributes, you can see that each spatial unit has 2 tables associated to it. And looking at my 3 R's table, I can see that it is a owner and is 100% shared by this. So I know exactly what the deal is with this parcel. It's pretty easy to add a relationship too. I can add it on the lab or add it on the app as I collect it, or I can add it back in the office if I get more information. So let's add a new relationship here. We'll call it ownership type and 100%. So really, really easy to attach a new relationship or a supporting documentation for the collection of the land. Now, the last thing we need to do is we need to share this out as a web map so we can use it in the field app. There are a couple steps we need to go through. First, we need a summary, which is a simple description of what this map is for. And some tags to help it be discoverable. Here's where I can select a configuration. I want my data to be editable as soon as it's published. So I'm going to set this up as an editable map with editing enabled in it. I'm going to share this with everyone in my organization. Now let's go to this overlooked configuration tab. On the configuration tab, we can see that we're not just publishing a map, but a web feature layer containing all of our spatial features and non-spatial tables. And that's what I mean by services-oriented architecture. These services are making sure that we work with the same data across all of the applications. Once we share, it goes up to the web in this web map that we saw earlier. Now the web map is where you'll make symbology changes and configure the informational pop-ups that give the field users the information they need. As I alluded to though, there's a Field Maps web application that helps with configuration as well. The web application is where we can simplify the form for field data collectors and get an overview of how the map will behave within Field Maps. On the Overview tab, we see some information like the name and a summary. And we can also see if our map is available to be taken offline. The Content tab is how we configure the form. It has a very simple drag and drop interface. So say for example, I wanted to adjust the address form. All I need to do is drag in the attribute that I wish to populate in the form and drop it in there. When possible, we also want to guide the field collector to enter the information in the correct way. So I can simplify this. And then also give him or her an example to follow. If we are working in a location that does not have internet access, we can prepare the map for offline use. All we need to do for that is to tap online. and enable the offline mode. There's also things that we can do to make sure that the app runs more efficiently in the field, and that is making map areas. Map areas are smaller chunks that we can take out of the bigger map that are useful when we don't have connection. Let's create a map area. I know that most of my new collection is going to happen here in the southeast corner. So let's just create a new area right about here and save. It'll package as it goes, and I can just go ahead and close that. The settings tab is how we determine whether or not how the map works. So we can turn streaming on, we can make determinations on photo upload size, we can turn the snapping on and off, and we can provide tools such as being able to edit multiple and require location tracking. We can also set required accuracy collections, and this will provide a warning if it does not meet the requirements. The sharing tabs are the last tab here, and this shows how the map is shared. There's two ways that we can share it. We can share it via a link, a link in an email, or we can actually just send the QR code, and all they need to do is scan this, and it'll open up the Field Maps app on their phones. So once we're happy with the form, the next step is being able to provide real-time updates. If this is the first registration, people will have never seen their land on a map before. So using that same service, we'll portray the map in a dashboard. This way, we can be technologically advanced, but maintain the human connection associated with first registration. With a dashboard like this up in the command center, we can quickly understand the progress and monitor the field operations. Landowners can also stop by and see their land up on the map, creating a community around the project. So now that we have set the field operations up for success, we can turn to what happens after the collection. So that means the next section would be the fabric. By fabric, I mean the Arcgis Pro Parcel fabric, which is a purpose-built data structure for creating, maintaining, and managing parcels or land units. It provides the spatial features, the relationships between tables, as well as rules for maintaining data accuracy. The parcel fabric for Arcgis Pro has been designed to meet your data at its quality level and no longer requires everything to be clean. It has built-in capabilities to refine your data over time. To get our data into the parcel fabric, I followed a set of tasks that ship with the software. In the interest of time, I've already put the data into the fabric by following these tasks. Now, I know that the data is likely to have some geometric errors, such as gaps, slivers, and overlaps. And making sure that these are removed, everything is snapped together is what we refer to as topology in GIS. And finding these errors is simple. I just turn on the error inspector and hit validate. And every error inside my view extent will be highlighted. The error inspector shows exactly where the errors are, so we can get on with correcting them. I can get a preview of what the error looks like. I can go to the details and find out exactly which rule is being violated. And in some cases, I can run an automated fix. This one's going to create a feature in the gap, and that's not what I want, but some of them do have automated fixes. So aside from geometry corrections, we can also build in rules that help maintain the quality of the attribution. So let's say, for example, I want to make sure that my parcels automatically follow a sequence when they are added. So I'll go to the spatial unit inside my parcel fabric data set. Going to data design and attribute rules opens up the attribute rules. You can see here that I have a parcel ID sequence rule. Now, the first thing I needed to do was actually add this sequence to my database. And to do that, I ran this tool. All I needed to do was put the input of the fabric and give the sequence a name, tell it where I wanted to start, and what the value I wanted to increment by. And I did have to write a little arcade expression. But that's it. So let's test this rule out. Say I wanted to create a new parcel right here. So I can see that the parcel was automatically sequenced based on the other parcels that I've drawn. So this happens to be number 907, and this can be configured in a multitude of ways. I simply incremented it by 1, but this can be really any rule that you'd like. So we've shown now how you can go from field data collection to the Arcgis Pro parcel fabric. First, we saw how the field maps application can be used to collect data in the field and can use an external GNSS receiver to supply the coordinates. We also saw how with a few taps on the screen of a mobile device, we can collect a spatial unit using the schema of the land administration domain model. We then saw how Arcgis Pro can be used to create maps for the field using the Ladm and got a glimpse into how service-driven architecture streamlines collection, quality control, and project tracking. Then went to the web to configure the Field Maps app for ease of use and saw how dashboards can be used to monitor a project and create a sense of community. Lastly, we saw how Arcgis Pro Parcel Fabric can meet your data at its quality level and ships with tools that get your data into the fabric in just a few steps. We also saw how the fabric supports improvement over time with built-in tools to check for geometric errors and attribute rules to make sure your features are in compliance as soon as they are created. I'm now going to pass it back to Brandon to introduce our next presenter. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt, for a great demonstration. For our final portion of the webinar, we're pleased to be joined by Juan Pablo Solis from the Cadastral Foundation. For those that are not familiar, Cadastral is an Esri business partner that does some great work in this space. They utilize many of the tools available in ArcGIS Online, and they work globally using GIS technology to secure land rights. As you see here, they have a goal for 2040. Cadastral will catalyze land systems change, leading to inclusive land and resource rights for half of the world's 1 billion people who are not secure in their land rights. Cadastral works in a variety of settings and places and promotes equality, sustainability, and youth development. Their approach is comprehensive and includes the technology and the tools, as well as training and a whole network of partners as well. And as you see in this dashboard, their projects have an impact all over the world. Lots of good numbers for how many countries, parcels, and documents have been impacted. And the Latin American countries you see there are going to be covered by JP in his presentation in Spanish. Over to you, JP.
Muchas gracias, Brandon. Buenas tardes a todos los presentes. Mi nombre es Juan Pablo Solís y soy director de tecnología de Cadastral. Bueno, primero me gustaría hacer un repaso breve del objetivo y la misión de Cadastral. Luego, una revisión de lo que ofrecemos como organización, cómo trabajamos y por último, revisar algunos de los proyectos en los cuales hemos participado. Cadastral es una ONG fundada el año 2015. Nuestra misión es proporcionar herramientas y servicios tecnológicos para brindar el apoyo en la documentación de los derechos sobre la tierra y sus recursos. El objetivo mayor es el de construir comunidades más sólidas y sostenibles en el tiempo, y a su vez proporcionar información relevante a los tomadores de decisiones de las comunidades o las entidades que tienen a su responsabilidad la administración del territorio. Pero dentro de este ámbito, ¿qué ofrecemos? Por un lado, ofrecemos experiencia en la temática referida a la administración del territorio, apoyo a las comunidades en el empoderamiento del uso de su información, la creación de mapas y documentos territoriales, la capacitación y soporte técnico en las herramientas de campo, la visualización y análisis de datos mediante el uso del dashboard principalmente, y la colaboración con las entidades relacionadas con la administración del territorio. Todo esto dentro del marco de las mejores prácticas, el uso de estándares y la implementación práctica de la tecnología para los procesos de relevamiento de datos de campo principalmente. Ahora, ¿cómo trabajamos? ¿Cómo implementamos este conjunto de actividades? En lo que respecta a la tecnología, proporcionamos un conjunto escalable y flexible de herramientas móviles y para web de alta calidad, diseñadas para ayudar a los usuarios a recopilar, administrar y compartir datos sobre la Tierra y sus recursos. Brindamos servicios de capacitación y asesoramiento para que las comunidades puedan recopilar, administrar y usar sus datos con el fin de documentar sus derechos de propiedad. Nos relacionamos con organizaciones globales y locales, gobiernos, donantes y empresas privadas, con el fin de lograr asociaciones estratégicas que ayuden en el desarrollo de las comunidades. Y por último, promovemos el liderazgo intelectual. Catalizamos el cambio en el sector de la tierra y el desarrollo a través del liderazgo del pensamiento. Cadastral brinda el acceso a la tecnología a nuestros socios. La data es almacenada de una forma privada y segura. Nuestros socios, que son los usuarios de nuestra plataforma, mantienen la propiedad de sus datos y a su vez deciden quién puede ver o modificar los registros. Es responsabilidad también de nuestros socios definir si los proyectos y la data pueden hacerse públicos durante el proyecto o una vez concluidos el mismo. Cadastral utiliza la tecnología Esri fundamentalmente. Utilizamos Collector, Server 123, Field Maps y Workforce para las tareas de campo, Arcgis Online como plataforma central, el dashboard de hecho es una herramienta de visualización principal que usamos, y Arcgis Pro como herramienta para el procesamiento de la información espacial. Esta diapositiva muestra el impacto global de Cadastral en números, la cantidad de socios, a los que llamamos partners, los proyectos implementados, los países y cantidad de gobiernos con los cuales hemos trabajado, pero los números más importantes están en los documentos de tierra generados o el número de parcelas que han sido recolectados en la plataforma. Este dashboard, al igual que otra información, está disponible en el sitio de Cadastral y es de acceso libre. A continuación, repasaremos algunas experiencias de programas implementados globalmente por Cadastral. Este programa fue implementado en Cúcuta, Colombia, con el apoyo de Habitat for Humanity. La necesidad era realizar un censo de familias en el barrio de La Esmeralda en Cúcuta, con el objetivo de conocer la situación socioeconómica de las familias, nivel de escolarización, estado de las viviendas, acceso a infraestructura, impacto del COVID-19, acceso a ayudas, acceso a tecnología, datos sociosanitarios y de higiene, etc. La solución planteada fue el diseño de un formulario para la recolección de información, la creación de web apps para la visualización de datos y el diseño de dashboard para el análisis de la información. El resultado fue la recopilación de datos muy detallados, utilizando un formulario de más de 200 preguntas y cubriendo 139 familias en el barrio de La Esmeralda. Se crearon alrededor de 20 web apps y 10 dashboards. Este dashboard despliega la data de los materiales de las viviendas, el estado de la tenencia del suelo, tiempo de las viviendas, recursos de las familias, riesgos asociados, etc. En el siguiente dashboard mostramos los datos de las condiciones del barrio, problemas, servicios, espacios, etc., Como se puede ver, a través de la navegación se pueden cruzar datos muy importantes para la toma de decisiones. El siguiente caso que les muestro fue realizado en Mozambique. Este se realizó en colaboración con NSBA Clusa, esta organización fundada en 1916 como la Liga de Cooperativas de los Estados Unidos de América, la Asociación Nacional de Empresas Cooperativas, que es una organización de membresía de los Estados Unidos para cooperativas y empresas de propiedad conjunta. Para este proyecto, la necesidad era tener una herramienta para mapear y emitir títulos de tierras individuales, DUAT, para empoderar los derechos de las mujeres a la tierra. No hay propiedad privada de la tierra en Mozambique. La tierra y sus recursos asociados son propiedad del Estado. La ley de tierras, sin embargo, otorga a las personas privadas el derecho a usar y beneficiarse de la tierra. Esto es conocido como el derecho de uso y aprovechamiento de la tierra, DUAT. La solución. Cadastral colaboró con NSBA para recopilar y administrar información relacionada con la tenencia de la tierra, la agricultura de conservación y los proyectos de seguridad alimentaria que empoderan a las mujeres agricultoras. El resultado, las herramientas de Cadastral han hecho que la recopilación de datos y la emisión de DUAT sea más sencilla, rápida y económica. El Lab de Innovación de Género del Banco Mundial está utilizando los datos para un ensayo de control aleatorio para evaluar el impacto de los subsidios a la tierra y el empoderamiento de las mujeres. En cuanto a algunos números, 15.402 personas documentadas, 2.567 hogares documentados en 2 provincias. Las herramientas que se utilizaron fueron Survey One Today, Web Apps y Dashboard para la visualización de datos. Este slide muestra el dashboard generado luego de la captura de datos. En este se pueden visualizar el número de género por distrito, porcentajes de los certificados DUAT por género y en la parte derecha los puntos de captura de los datos. El siguiente proyecto fue implementado en Indonesia con la colaboración de Ladm, la cual es una firma consultora independiente que promueve el desarrollo sostenible a través de una gestión responsable y equitativa de los recursos naturales, particularmente en las economías emergentes de Asia. La necesidad, abordar los desafíos de la deforestación, la degradación de las turberas y los incendios forestales en el contexto del crecimiento del aceite de palma y la conservación de la biodiversidad. La solución, herramientas y capacitación para la recopilación de datos para respaldar un modelo de asociación de gestión sostenible del aceite de palma. Como resultado, los datos recopilados, los agricultores recibieron certificados RSPO que demuestran que el aceite de palma se cultiva de manera sostenible. Acá tenemos uno de los dashboards del proyecto con la data recopilada. Podemos ver que se tienen 24 toneladas de FFB, que son racimos de frutas secas por año, en esta área seleccionada. También se ha capturado información del tipo de semilla para las palmas y en la parte inferior el estado de la titulación de los puntos capturados. En este otro dashboard brinda información de las plantaciones registradas, cómo se han obtenido esos terrenos y también se pueden ver detalles de las preguntas que se han realizado en los formularios. Este proyecto fue realizado en Jharkhand y Odisha, en la India, con la cooperación de Pradhan, que es una organización que trabaja en las zonas más pobres de la India, ayudando a las comunidades vulnerables a organizarse colectivamente. La necesidad, herramientas y capacitación para documentar los derechos forestales de acuerdo con la Ley de Derechos Forestales de la India. ¿Cuál fue la solución a implementar? Aportar habilidades y sistemas que ayuden a las mujeres, las familias y las comunidades a establecer derechos forestales y utilizar datos para gestionar sus recursos naturales. El resultado del programa fue la documentación que apoya a las comunidades forestales para reclamar y defender sus derechos y medios de vida, También el de crear planes de uso de la tierra y los bosques. A la fecha, más de 4.540 personas y 908 hogares fueron capturados en la plataforma. Herramientas, Survey, Collector y Dashboard. Este slide muestra la cantidad de datos de personas capturadas en la plataforma, el total de parcelas y la frecuencia de distribución del uso del formulario. El último caso que les presentaré hoy es el de Zambia, con la Asociación de Productores de Anacardo, cayú o semillas de marañón, como se conoce en otros lugares. La necesidad es el mapeo y documentación de productores de anacardos a pequeña escala. ¿Qué solución planteamos? Herramientas y capacitación para mapear los hogares y parcelas de los pequeños agricultores a fin de determinar su prueba de propiedad y el nivel de preocupación por perder su propiedad. ¿Qué resultado se obtuvo? Mapeo y titulación de más de 3.300 hogares de agricultores para promover la inversión en el sector agrícola de Zambia, mejorar la seguridad alimentaria y aumentar el desarrollo socioeconómico rural. Este slide muestra toda la información colectada con las herramientas de campo. Como pudimos ver en la presentación, como Cadastral brindamos todo el conocimiento de la administración de territorio, usando tecnologías de punta para resolver las necesidades de cada uno de nuestros proyectos. Para finalizar, muchas gracias a Esri por brindarnos el espacio para poder presentar experiencias de uso de las herramientas. En el sitio de Cadastral pueden encontrar casos de uso de programas implementados o contactarse con nosotros. Muchas gracias y atento a sus preguntas.
Thanks so much, JP, and that was a great illustration of how ArcGIS has been used successfully in Latin America in many projects. As a next step, we hope you'll join us for the second webinar in this series on Thursday, February 3rd at 2 p.m. Eastern. The webinar will focus on how you can manage your parcel data efficiently using the Esri parcel editing solution. So where do we go from here? If you would like to explore what your journey of land administration modernization would look like, please get in touch with your distributor. If you don't know who that is, we can help. Please fill out the survey that you'll get after the webinar closes. Let us know what you thought of it, how we can help you with more information. With that, we can also note your attendance, and for all those that attend the 4 webinars in the series, you'll receive an official certificate of completion. There's many ways to learn more, so in the survey, you'll also get links to these resources. If you need help locating your distributor, there is a page for that. To register for the second webinar in the series, you'll have the webinar series page. There's also a page about the LADM in ArcGIS, as well as a demonstration page on the solutions we're discussing in this webinar series. All right, and with that, I'm going to hand things over in a moment to our colleague Milquiades, who will facilitate our question and answer portion. Please do send in your questions in Inglés o Español using the questions panel in the GoToWebinar interface. You can find the links to those resources mentioned in the previous slide in the chat window. We have some other Esri staff on the call as well to help answer questions, Brent Jones and Catherine Smythe. Also just wanted to clarify that the link to register for the second webinar is not yet ready as of today, but today's attendees will all receive an email inviting you to register once the link is ready. So with that, Milquiades will translate, and let's see what sorts of questions we have.
Okay, thanks, Brandon. The first question we have is from Erica. I think I'm going to point this one to Matt Woodley. The data shown on the dashboards, were they direct data from a service, or was there something you did to them before bringing them into the dashboard?
That is an excellent question. And yes, it is the direct service. So one of the great things about using the services architecture is that you can use that same service in multiple locations. So you can be sure that the data is being updated as you're collecting it. So the service that was shown in the field app is the same service that was shown in the web app, and it's the same service shown in the dashboard. And no additional treatments were given to the data, no creation of views or exporting the data into different formats. Everything's just the same service all the way through.
So Raul Morales asks, are the maps shown in the last slideshow public?
And JP, that may be a question for you. Raul may be asking about the perhaps some of the maps or dashboards you were showing in your presentation.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's a good question. And as I mentioned on the presentation, some of the projects decide if they want to have that information public, which in many cases we have, and others are private for them. So you can go into the Cadastral site and you can see all the public information that we have there.
We've got another question from Cesar. He'd like to know how can we get in contact with the Cadastral project that was shown for application in Ecuador.
You can go to the site, or you can email me to my personal email, well, Cadastral email, or contact Brandon or Matt, so they can give you the contact.
And Cesar, that email should be on the screen there, so it'd be the jpsolis@cadastra.org.
That's it.
Okay, we got another question from Jose Quintero. Essentially, what system is required to monitor the small agricultural production in countries that do not have internet in rural territories?
JP, you can take that if you'd like.
Yeah, well, you know, the beauty about every tools is that they can work offline. So in many projects, we prepare the information once you have, you know, internet connection and everything. You do the mapping, prepare all the information, the service that you need. Then you go into the field, do the collections, then you go back to an office in which you have connection or connectivity to the internet, and then upload all the data that you have. So in Latin America, you know that in many places, we don't have a proper internet connection in many spots. So the way that we work is, you know, work offline. And Esri give us a lot of good tools to do that in advance.
JP, si quieres contestarla también en español, creo que sería preferible. Sí.
Está bueno. Bueno, como mencionaba, las herramientas que tenemos en Esri te dan la posibilidad de trabajar fuera de línea. Entonces, lo que hacemos en muchos proyectos es hacer toda la preparación inicial de los mapas, los surveys, en las oficinas centrales. Luego la gente se va a campo, hace toda la colección de datos, usando survey, usando field maps, usando workforce. Y luego toda la información, cuando vienen de vuelta a la oficina central, se carga en los servidores principales, ¿no? Haciendo la sincronización, usando las herramientas que nos provee la plataforma. Entonces, de esa forma puedes trabajar en lugares donde no tienes conectividad y todo queda sincronizado.
Gracias, JP. Next question is from Melanie Fong. Is the information that Cadastral collects open data for the communities?
¿Podría repetir, por favor?
Bueno, en español, la información que recopila Cadastral son datos abiertos para las comunidades.
Sí, dependiendo, por ejemplo, tenemos un proyecto en los cuales la gente va a manejar su información localmente, entonces esa información, esa data es privada para ellos. Existen otros proyectos donde ellos deciden hacer su información pública, entonces lo que hacemos es abrir la data para que cualquier otro proyecto o cualquier otra persona que entre al sitio puede ver también esa información, ¿sí? Depende mucho de los proyectos, depende cómo ellos quieren manejar su información.
Okay, gracias por eso. The next question is from Brian Austin. about how much dependency is there on a local ArcGIS enterprise infrastructure versus ArcGIS Online when implementing and operating the system?
I'll take that one, Milk. To answer this question, there's no dependency on using ArcGIS Enterprise for this. Everything I showed was from ArcGIS Online. That being said, you could implement the exact same system on ArcGIS Enterprise if you happen to have that infrastructure and the servers in place and the expertise to do so. But in the interest of getting things out into the field as quick as possible, ArcGIS Online would probably be the optimum location to start with.
Okay, thanks for that, Matt. Otto Orlando, it looks like you have a question. ¿Puedes poner la pregunta en el chat? ¿O hay algo específico que quieres preguntar?
Hey, Milk.
Yes.
Maybe could you just clarify in Espanol the point that we got one question from Junior about the registration for the next webinar? ¿Puede clarificar?
Para el próximo webinar, vamos a mandar el link cuando esté disponible. Ahora mismo no lo tenemos, pero sí lo vamos a mandar. Okay, that looks to be all the questions in the chat for now. So I'll pass it back over to you, Brandon.
Okay. Maybe just give another minute here for any other questions that anyone might want to submit. These have been great questions. Thank you so much. Great, yes, and many of you have just simply been putting in a thank you for the session. It's great for the feedback, and we look forward to seeing you on the next webinar as well. Any other questions?
What is the ideal methodology for a correct survey of the rural cadastre?
Brent, you want to take that one?
Sure. You may need to translate this.
Okay.
But the work that was done, that Matt showed, was done at fit for purpose. So generally, in rural cadastres, the accuracies can be a bit lower, but the information regarding the ownership has to be good. So it's the same methodology, just using different GPS. One thing that I hope was pointed out was that this system works entirely disconnected. So using the mobile application with an external GPS, you can use whatever GPS you choose, and that can all work disconnected. Hope that helps.
Yep. Así que la última parte primera, él mencionó que todo este sistema se puede utilizar completamente desconectado. La única diferencia entre la parte rural a la urbana es la precisión. No va a ser tan preciso en lugares rurales, pero la metodología se queda la misma. And he had a follow-up question: what tool should he use?
For GPS, there are many. There's EOS. There is the R2 Trimble, and many other GPS devices. The collection tool is the Field Maps application running on either an Android or an iOS, and that's simply all you need in the field.
Así que no hay varias diferentes herramientas que se pueden usar como GPS, pero específicamente de aplicaciones que tenemos en Esri sería Field Maps, que se usa como la aplicación para recolectar los datos directamente de su dispositivo.
And Otto, if you would like, we can send you some information about this.
Yeah, and we can set up another demo to show exactly how this would work and set you up for that if you'd like.
Gracias, Otto. Thank you, Austin. Thank you for the other feedback. Thank you, Melanie. And certainly if you have any other questions, you can be in touch with myself, Matt, JP, and we'll be happy to address your questions in English or in Spanish as well. But thank you again for joining us today. And on behalf of Matt, JP, Melquiades, Brent, Catherine, myself, and the team here at Esri, please join us for the next webinar. And we hope to see you again soon. Have a great day.